This is the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. It's a video game console. It's also the gateway to adventure, a portal to complex-loving stories, and a guide to jaw-dropping experiences. It's arguably the greatest video game platform of all time. It allows us to revisit a much simpler time, a happier time. A time, whatever, who cares, just roll the intro. The original Nintendo Entertainment System was a massive success with the general public and gaming fans around the globe that they were completely dominant of this industry. However, NEC Technologies decided it was time for a competitor to rise up and tell Nintendo that they wanted to have a measuring contest of sorts. And I'll let you decipher what I'm trying to say here. For the three people out there that understand who this is, good job! NEC Technologies was the developer behind the TurboGrafx 16 or the PC Engine in Japan, which was the first 16-bit console. Well, technically, it wasn't fully 16-bit, because the central CPU of the device is 8-bit, but the graphics card combined with the CPU allows it to render up to 482 different colors at once compared to the 512 of the Super Nintendo. That was a long sentence. The TurboGrafx 16 was the first 16-bit marketed console, so this put quite a bit of pressure on Sega and Nintendo to deliver to the public. Being released in 1987, just 2 years after the NES, it was showing that NEC meant business. Now for a solid couple of years, it was the leading console in Japan, at least until a certain little gem hit the market. The video's titled after it. So Nintendo had two key rivals to go up against, and I gotta say, I think they delivered. The original designs of the SNES/Super Famicom were done by Masayuki Uemura. He also designed the original Famicom, so clearly this man had at least a smidgen of talent. I love how this console was designed, and as you all may know, I'm pretty big into graphic design. I rather enjoy the blocky, geometric, and minimalist art, so this console just speaks to me on a deeper level than most. I'm weird, I know. The Super Famicom launched in Japan on November 21st, 1990, and it was a booming success. It sold through the first shipments rather swiftly, and Nintendo began to usher in this new level of dominance, at least in Japan. In America, the playing field was still pretty open. Now, Nintendo did have strong third-party support from the likes of Square Enix, formerly known as Squaresoft, Capcom, Konami, and Tecmo. All of these developers brought their behemoth-sized franchises with them, and combined with Nintendo's first-party software, people's gaming libraries were looking pretty sweet. Now in America, the console had a complete redesign to make it look more akin to the design of the original NES, at least in terms of geometrics. The Super Nintendo launched with three major titles that were little gems known as Super Mario World, F-Zero, and Pilowings. Oh, and shortly after that we got SimCity and Gradius 3. One of the more common graphical modes that's present in SNES games is Mode 7, which was famous for providing the illusion of three-dimensional graphics because it provided depth by warping the backgrounds of games. Now, a variety of games utilize this feature, including the obvious F-Zero, along the likes of Mega Man 7, Contra 3, Final Fantasy 6, and more. And now, time to briefly run through the laundry list of add-ons and enhancements to the Super Nintendo. The Super FX chip. This little chip was used to heighten the graphical prowess of the console and is featured prominently in titles such as Star Fox, Doom, and Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. I talk more about it in my history video over Star Fox because more shameless adverts. The Super Game Boy. This was a peripheral that allowed users to slide a Game Boy cartridge into the pack and play Game Boy games on the telly. The SNES Game Genie. This add-on lets gamers input codes that modify various games. Want infinite energy in Castlevania Dracula X? Type this thing in. Would you like a faster time in Final Fight? Here you go. For some reason, do you want to skip the godly intro to Super Metroid because you're a terrible person? Here you go. So Capcom made that atrocity. The Champion Joystick. This was created to mimic the button layout for the American Street Fighter II cabinets, and well, it looks like it. The SNES Mouse. Play Mario Paint. Oh, it was compatible with other games? Who cares? Play more Mario Paint. Now get a Super Scope as a visual display, don't get me wrong, but don't play the games it was made for. Those are terrible. During the lifetime of the system, it didn't really undergo many severe hardware changes, aside from one. In October of 1997, the SNES 101 launched in North America. Huh. Nintendo's naming conventions still suck. It was marketed as a lighter, sturdier version of the original Super Nintendo that was also cheaper and included a game with the purchase, and consumers could choose between games like Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island, The Legend of Zelda Link to the Past, Kirby Superstar, and Tetris Attack. For the people who were simply not interested in leaving the fourth generation of consoles yet, this helped extend the lifetime of the Super Nintendo, and it let Nintendo make more money on old hardware because some things just never change. The legacy of the system will never cease to exist, since even today we see its shining influence within the indie the community, and it features some of the best RPGs, racers, and platformers to ever grace the video game industry. Let's not forget the impact it has had on pretty much every controller after it. The 4-button layout is presented prominently in all modern control schemes, and the console had some of the first ventures into the third dimension of gaming. The Super Nintendo Entertainment System is one that offers something to everyone and is an unbelievable display of the brilliance retro gaming can offer. Few consoles can stand up to the SNES in terms of fun, AAA, timeless classics.